The courtroom at Providence Municipal Court fell silent when 9-year-old Emily Morrison walked to the witness stand. Her small hand trembled as she placed it on the Bible. She wore a simple blue dress, the same one she'd worn the day her best friend died in her arms. Her parents, Sarah and Michael Morrison, sat in the front row. Sarah, a nurse at Rhode Island Hospital, gripped her husband's hand so tightly her knuckles turned white. Michael, a firefighter with Providence Station 7, had tears in his eyes before his daughter even spoke. Across the aisle sat Tristan Caldwell, 19 years old, son of tech billionaire Marcus Caldwell, whose $3.2 billion fortune came from cloud computing patents. Tristan wore Gucci from head to toe, sneakers that cost $890, jeans at $1,200, a hoodie that retailed for $2,400. He chewed gum loudly, scrolling through his phone, barely glancing at the little girl whose life he'd shattered 6 weeks earlier. Behind him sat 7 attorneys from Whitmore & Associates, the most expensive defense firm in New England. Their lead counsel, Victoria Whitmore herself, commanded $150 per hour. The message was clear. Money could buy anything, including justice. But they hadn't met Judge Frank Caprio yet. Before we dive into what happened in that courtroom, if you believe in justice and want to support a new channel dedicated to sharing these powerful stories, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Every subscription helps us bring more of Judge Caprio's wisdom to light. Judge Caprio entered, and everyone rose. At 79, with 37 years on the bench, he'd seen thousands of cases. But something about the scene before him, the small girl with haunted eyes, the smirking teenager in designer clothes, made his jaw tighten imperceptibly. Case number 2024 CR 9847, the clerk announced. The People versus Tristan Caldwell. Charges: reckless endangerment, vehicular manslaughter of an animal, leaving the scene of an accident, destruction of evidence, and driving under the influence. Victoria Whitmore stood, her Hermes briefcase clicking open. Your Honor, my client is a 19-year-old honor student with a bright future ahead of him. What happened on the afternoon of September 14th was a tragic accident involving a pet that was, unfortunately, not properly controlled by its owners. While my client expresses sympathy for the family's loss, we must remember that legally, a dog is classified as property under Rhode Island law. The family's demand for $750,000 is grossly disproportionate to the actual value of the animal, which market analysis places at approximately $800 for a 6-year-old golden retriever. Judge Caprio's eyes narrowed. Ms. Whitmore, before you continue, let me understand something. You're arguing that a child's companion animal, killed by your client's vehicle, should be valued at $800. Legally, yes, Your Honor. We're prepared to offer $5,000 as a gesture of goodwill, contingent on the family signing a non-disclosure agreement and dropping any criminal charges. I see, Caprio said quietly. Mr. Morrison, Mrs. Morrison, tell me what happened on September 14th. Michael Morrison stood, his firefighter's composure barely holding. Your Honor, it was 3:47 in the afternoon. Emily came home from school, and she wanted to play with Buddy in our front yard. We live on Elmwood Avenue, a residential street with a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. It's a safe neighborhood. Families, kids playing, people walking their dogs. Sarah Morrison picked up the story, her voice shaking. I was watching from the window while I prepared dinner. Emily was throwing a tennis ball, and Buddy, our golden retriever, 6 years old, was fetching it. They played this game every day for 4 years, since we adopted Buddy when Emily was 5. Then I heard the engine, Michael continued. It was so loud, like a race car. I looked up and saw a black Lamborghini Urus flying down our street. Your Honor, the speed limit is 25. He had to be going at least 90, maybe more. Emily's small voice broke in. Buddy ran after the ball. He always did. But this time, she started crying, and her mother rushed to hold her. The ball rolled into the street, Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. Buddy went after it. And this vehicle hit him so hard, Your Honor. The impact threw Buddy 30 feet. The sound. She couldn't continue. The driver didn't even brake, Michael said, anger creeping into his voice. He didn't slow down, didn't swerve, didn't stop. He actually accelerated and sped away. My daughter ran into the street. By the time I got there, Buddy was dying. Emily was holding him, her dress covered in blood, begging him to wake up. He died in her arms, Your Honor, in my 9-year-old daughter's arms. Little did anyone know what the evidence would reveal. Mrs. Morrison, Judge Caprio said gently, I know this is difficult, but I need to understand the impact on your daughter. Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes. Emily hasn't slept through the night since it happened. She has nightmares. She wakes up screaming, reliving the moment. She sees blood everywhere. She's in therapy 3 times a week. Her pediatrician diagnosed her with post-traumatic stress disorder and severe anxiety. She's 9 years old, Your Honor. Buddy wasn't just a pet, Michael added. He slept in Emily's room every night. He walked her to the school bus stop every morning. When she had a bad day, she'd bury her face in his fur and talk to him. He was her best friend, her protector, her companion. Judge Caprio looked at Tristan. Mr. Caldwell, stand up, please. Tristan sighed dramatically, pocketing his phone as he stood. His expression was one of pure boredom. Do you have anything to say about what happened? Caprio asked. Tristan shrugged. I mean, I'm sorry about the dog and all, but, it was an accident. Could have happened to anyone. The dog ran into the street. I was just driving, you know. And legally, Your Honor, a dog is property, right? So, the damage is what, $800 max? We're offering way more than that. They should be grateful, honestly. The courtroom gasped. Sarah Morrison's face went pale. Michael had to be restrained by 2 court officers. Grateful? Judge Caprio's voice was ice. Did you just say they should be grateful? I'm just saying, we're being generous here. My dad could have just paid the ticket and walked away, but we're trying to do the right thing. Victoria Whitmore stood quickly. Your Honor, what my client means, I know exactly what he means, Ms. Whitmore. Sit down. Caprio's voice carried a warning. Mr. Caldwell, you said you were just driving. Tell me about that drive. I was heading to the country club, just a normal drive. At what speed? Tristan hesitated. The speed limit, I guess. You guess? Caprio shuffled papers. Officer Martinez, you were first on scene. What did your investigation reveal? A police officer stood. Your Honor, we have surveillance footage from 3 different homes on Elmwood Avenue. The defendant's vehicle, a 2024 Lamborghini Urus, valued at $350,000, was traveling at 95 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour residential zone. 95, Caprio repeated slowly. Continue. The footage also shows the defendant holding a mobile phone in his right hand. He was recording himself. An Instagram story, we later confirmed. In the video, he's laughing and saying, and I quote, "Speed is life. Broke boys wouldn't understand." He posted this approximately 4 minutes before the collision. Tristan's confident facade cracked slightly. Furthermore, Your Honor, the defendant did not brake before impact. He did not stop after impact. In fact, the footage shows him accelerating away from the scene. We apprehended him 2 hours later at Seabreeze Country Club, where he was drinking alcohol. If Judge Caprio's compassion moves you like it moves millions of others, show your support by subscribing to our channel. We're just starting out, and your subscription means everything. Officer Martinez, Caprio continued. What was Mr. Caldwell's blood alcohol content when tested? 0.11%, Your Honor. Well above the legal limit for someone his age. And his demeanor when arrested? Officer Martinez's jaw clenched. He laughed, Your Honor. He said, and I quote, "It's just a dog. My dad will buy them 10 new ones." He showed no remorse, no concern. He was more annoyed about missing his dinner reservation. Judge Caprio turned to Tristan. "You were drunk. You were speeding at 95 miles per hour in a residential neighborhood. You were recording yourself on your phone while driving. You killed a family's dog and fled the scene. And you laughed about it." "Your Honor," Victoria Whitmore interjected desperately, "my client is a Stanford admit. He has a 4.2 GPA. He's been accepted to one of the world's premier universities. A criminal record would destroy his future. This is a disproportionate punishment for a tragic accident involving a pet." "A pet?" Caprio's voice rose. "Ms. Whitmore, I want you to look at Emily Morrison and call Buddy a pet again." The courtroom fell silent. "Emily," Judge Caprio said gently, "would you like to tell us about Buddy?" The little girl nodded, wiping her eyes. She walked to the witness stand again, her voice small but steady. "Buddy was my best friend," she began. "We got him when I was 5, right after my grandpa died. I was really sad, and my parents thought Buddy would help. And he did. He made everything better." She pulled out a photograph from her pocket, a little girl and a golden dog, both smiling at the camera. "This is us on my 7th birthday. Buddy wore a party hat. He always let me dress him up. He never got mad. He slept in my room every night. When I had nightmares, he would put his head on my chest, and I would feel safe. When kids at school were mean to me, I would come home and tell Buddy everything, and he would listen. He never judged me. He just loved me." Her voice broke. "The day he died, we were playing fetch. It was his favorite game. The ball rolled and he ran after it, and then—" She sobbed. "I heard the car. It was so loud. And then Buddy was flying through the air, and there was blood everywhere, and I ran to him, and he was trying to breathe, but he couldn't. And I was holding him, and I was telling him it would be okay, but it wasn't okay, and he died, and I couldn't save him." Sarah Morrison was sobbing. Several jurors were crying. Even one of the defense attorneys looked down, unable to meet Emily's eyes. "I don't sleep anymore," Emily continued. "I see him every time I close my eyes. I see the blood. I hear the car. And I keep thinking, why didn't that man stop? Why didn't he help? Why did he just leave? Buddy was dying, and he just drove away." She looked at Tristan for the first time. "Don't you care at all? Don't you feel bad?" Tristan looked away, saying nothing. "Buddy wasn't just a dog," Emily said. "He was my family. And you killed him. And you didn't even say sorry." Judge Caprio waited until Emily returned to her parents before speaking. "Ms. Whitmore, I'd like to see all evidence related to this case. Everything." For the next 23 minutes, the courtroom watched surveillance footage, reviewed police reports, and examined evidence that painted a devastating picture. The Instagram video showed Tristan laughing, phone in one hand, steering wheel barely held with the other, speedometer clearly visible at 95 miles per hour. "Speed is life. Broke boys wouldn't understand," he shouted at the camera, then laughed. 4 minutes later, another camera caught the impact. The sound made people in the courtroom gasp. Buddy's body flew through the air. Emily's scream was audible even through the footage, and Tristan's Lamborghini didn't even slow down. But what Judge Caprio discovered next shocked everyone. "Officer Martinez," Caprio said, his voice deadly calm, "tell me about the vehicle's condition when you found it." "Your Honor, when we apprehended Mr. Caldwell at the country club, his vehicle was not present. We located it 3 hours later at Elite Auto Detailing on Westminster Street. The owner, Mr. Chen, testified that Mr. Caldwell paid $8,000 for emergency detailing service. When we examined the vehicle, it had been completely cleaned. Interior, exterior, undercarriage. All evidence of the collision had been removed. He destroyed evidence, Caprio stated. Yes, Your Honor. However, we obtained photographs from the country club's security cameras showing the vehicle arriving with visible damage to the front bumper and hood, as well as what appeared to be blood and fur. Ms. Whitmore, Caprio said, your client didn't just leave the scene. He deliberately destroyed evidence of his crime. Your Honor, my client was in shock. He was drinking martinis and laughing about it. Caprio's patience finally snapped. Don't insult this court's intelligence. He pulled out another document. I also have Mr. Caldwell's driving record. Officer Martinez, summarize it for us. Your Honor, this is Mr. Caldwell's third incident in 18 months. In March of last year, he was involved in a single vehicle accident where he totaled a $180,000 Porsche by crashing into a light pole at 70 miles per hour in a 40 zone. In November, he was cited for DUI after being stopped at a sobriety checkpoint with a blood alcohol content of 0.09. Both incidents were resolved with his father paying fines and legal fees. No charges were filed. So, money has always solved your problems, Caprio said to Tristan. Tristan said nothing, but his jaw was tight. I also have your social media accounts, Caprio continued, holding up printed screenshots. Your Instagram is filled with videos of illegal street racing, running red lights, driving while intoxicated, and boasting about how cops can't touch you when your dad owns half the city. You've documented dozens of crimes, Mr. Caldwell. You've been bragging about being above the law. He held up one more document. And this is particularly interesting. Your father, Marcus Caldwell, donated $2 million to the Providence Police Benevolent Fund on September 20th, 6 days after this incident, 1 week before your court date. Care to explain that timing? Victoria Whitmore stood. Your Honor, that donation was an attempt to buy influence, Caprio finished. Don't bother denying it. The timing speaks for itself. He looked at Tristan with an expression of profound disappointment. Mr. Caldwell, in my 37 years on this bench, I've seen wealthy people try to buy their way out of consequences. I've seen entitled children who believe rules don't apply to them. But rarely have I seen someone as callous, as cruel, as fundamentally lacking in basic human empathy as you. You didn't just kill a dog. You killed a little girl's best friend. You shattered her sense of safety. You gave her nightmares that will last years. And when confronted with what you'd done, you laughed. You offered money like that would erase the trauma. You treated a life, any life, as disposable. He stood, his voice carrying through the courtroom. Your father's money has protected you your entire life. It's bought you cars, lawyers, second chances. It's taught you that consequences are for other people, people who can't afford to make them disappear. Today, that ends. Here is my ruling. The courtroom held its breath. On the charge of reckless endangerment, I find you guilty. On the charge of vehicular manslaughter of an animal, guilty. On leaving the scene of an accident, guilty. On destruction of evidence, guilty. On driving under the influence, guilty. Your sentence is as follows. 1 year in juvenile detention, the maximum allowed under Rhode Island law for someone your age. You will serve every day of that sentence. No early release, no house arrest, detention. Tristan's face went white. Victoria Whitmore started to object, but Caprio held up his hand. Furthermore, your driver's license is revoked for 5 years. When you're released, you will complete 1,000 hours of community service at Providence Animal Shelter. You will clean cages, feed animals, and learn what it means to care for a living being. You will attend alcohol rehabilitation therapy 3 times a week for 1 year. You will complete a defensive driving course, and you will remain on supervised probation for 3 years. Any violation, will result in adult criminal charges. Regarding the Morrison family's civil claim, you are ordered to pay $750,000 in damages. This covers Emily's ongoing psychological therapy, the family's emotional distress, and the loss of their companion. This amount will be paid within 90 days. He paused. And one more thing. I am sending a copy of this judgment, along with all evidence presented today, to Stanford University's admissions office. They should know exactly who they admitted. Tristan stood suddenly. You can't do that. You'll ruin my life. No, Mr. Caldwell, Caprio said coldly. You ruined your own life the moment you decided that your entertainment was more important than a child's safety. The moment you decided to drive drunk at 95 miles per hour through a neighborhood where families live. The moment you killed an innocent animal and drove away laughing. He leaned forward. Your father can buy cars. He can buy lawyers. He can even try to buy justice with his donations. But he cannot buy you a conscience. He cannot buy you empathy. And he cannot buy you out of the consequences of your choices. Not today. Not in my courtroom. This isn't an accident, Mr. Caldwell. This is what happens when wealth destroys humanity, when privilege becomes poison, when someone is told so many times that rules don't apply to them, that they stop seeing other beings, human or animal, as mattering at all. I hope that year behind bars teaches you what your parents couldn't: responsibility, empathy, and the value of life. Every life. Even the life of a 6-year-old golden retriever who trusted humans and paid for that trust with his life. The courtroom erupted. Emily's parents were sobbing with relief. Tristan stood frozen, his confident mask shattered. Victoria Whitmore gathered her papers in silence, knowing no appeal would succeed against such overwhelming evidence. If this story touched your heart, if you believe judges like Frank Caprio represent the best of our justice system, please support our new channel by subscribing and liking this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear that justice and compassion can coexist. Comment below with your city. Let's build a community that believes in fairness for all. Tristan Caldwell served his full year in juvenile detention. The experience changed him, though whether the change was genuine or strategic, only time would tell. Stanford University revoked his admission after reviewing the case. He eventually attended community college instead. The $750,000 was paid, though Marcus Caldwell fought it for 6 months before finally relenting. The money funded 5 years of therapy for Emily and established a trust fund for her education. Emily still struggles. At 11 now, she's doing better. The nightmares are less frequent. Her parents adopted another rescue dog, a golden retriever mix they named Justice. Emily chose the name herself. The Morrison family used part of the settlement to advocate for Buddy's Law in Rhode Island, legislation that increased penalties for hit-and-run incidents involving animals and required psychological evaluation for repeat reckless driving offenders. The law passed in 2025. Judge Caprio, when asked about the case, said simply, "Justice cannot have 2 standards, one for the wealthy and one for everyone else. A life is a life, whether human or animal. And children deserve to feel safe in their own neighborhoods. That's not complicated. That's basic decency." Emily Morrison still lives on Elmwood Avenue. On sunny afternoons, she plays in her front yard with Justice. She throws the tennis ball, and Justice retrieves it, just like Buddy used to. She smiles more now. She's healing. Sometimes she thinks about that day, the worst day of her life. She thinks about Buddy, about holding him while he died, about screaming for him to wake up. She thinks about the man who killed him and drove away. But mostly, she thinks about Judge Caprio. She thinks about how he listened to her, how he looked at her like she mattered, how he told that man, the rich man who thought money could fix everything, that some things can't be bought. Rules exist to serve people, not punish them, Caprio had said in court. But when someone shows complete disregard for life, any life, the rules must protect the innocent. Emily understands now what her parents told her, that sometimes justice takes time, but when it comes, it's powerful. That one person standing up for what's right can change everything. That wealth doesn't equal worth, and that in a courtroom, everyone is equal. She learned that cruelty doesn't win, that compassion matters, that her pain was seen and acknowledged and validated, that Buddy's life had meaning, had value, had worth. And she learned that in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, the great equalizer isn't money or status or privilege. It's truth. It's justice. It's the simple, powerful belief that every life matters, every person deserves dignity, and every action has consequences. Tristan Caldwell learned that too, the hard way. But he learned it. And maybe, just maybe, that's justice working exactly as it should.